take a couple looks at some cases, a Supreme Court case and a couple Court of Appeals cases that have dealt with common law marriage. Again, the ceremonial date is an easy one. The common law marriage aspect of it is a little bit more difficult. So they're very fact intensive. So what I want to do is I want to start at the top at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has made rulings for decades and decades and decades with regard to common law marriage. This one, the Nestor case, was determined in 1984, and it's not that the Supreme Court made a ruling establishing common law or a test of common law in this case. It's just the Supreme Court taking its own rules that have been in play for decades and decades and applying them to this Nestor case. I want to go over these facts. They're important for either establishing or failing to establish common law marriage. This relationship between Eleanor and Hobart began in 1963 when they met. After 1963, they were constantly with each other, but at the very beginning, Eleanor lived in an apartment while Hobart lived with his mother. My understanding is that at this time, even though it was a long time ago, these people had already been divorced, so they weren't necessarily youngsters. But the Hobart proposes to Eleanor, and nothing specific is concluded. In 1969, Hobart buys a home. My understanding is that that was exclusively in his name only. In July of 1970, Eleanor moves in with Hobart into his house, and Hobart proposes marriage, and Eleanor accepts the proposal. So here what appears to be that present intent. Hobart and Eleanor announced their marriage to their friends and family. They did not disclose to Hobart's mother that they were getting married. Hobart made a request on Eleanor to both keep their tax returns, their retirement accounts, their bank accounts, and their credit cards separate. In 1979, Hobart was afflicted with ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease. This is a debilitating disease that relatively moves quickly in about a 2-year span. However, the fact is that during this time period when Hobart is fighting this disease, Eleanor is there assisting him between 1979 and 1983. So in this fact pattern, there's about a 20-year relationship between Hobart and Eleanor. And when Hobart dies, there's a conflict in the probate, and you can guess who the conflict's going to probably be with. It's going to be with Eleanor's possible mother-in-law, Hobart's mother. And so she's going to contest Eleanor's right to take any assets of Hobart's estate. So this does end up in the trial court as the probate court. The ruling was that there was no common law marriage because Eleanor and Hobart agreed to hold themselves out as not being married. Eleanor was not entitled to any assets of Hobart, and Eleanor appealed. And so that separateness on the bank accounts and the credit cards, and the fact that they made certain representations to his mother seems to rule the day in the probate court. This goes to the 9th District Court of Appeals, where the trial court is affirmed. Eleanor loses in the Court of Appeals, and she appeals to the Ohio Supreme Court. The ruling of the Ohio Supreme Court is that they reversed both the 9th District Court and the trial court. They concluded that common law marriage existed. Eleanor was a common law wife, and she should share in Hobart's estate assets. The Ohio Supreme Court republished common law marriage rules that have been around for decades, setting up the elements of the common law marriage. Number one, a present agreement to be married. Again, that's the present agreement means that you can't promise to get married in the future. It's got to be, I want to be married, I want to marry you now. The cohabitation as husband and wife. the holding out to others by the parties that they are married. And so those are the basic elements of common law marriage that is espoused by the Ohio Supreme Court. When we go to the next case, interpreting and applying the laws of common law marriage, we go to the Ohio 8th District Court, which I believe is a case out of Cleveland. It's Winthrop versus Hardin. It's a case that came out in 2002. We have a male Tony and a female Gail that are getting wrapped up in the application or interpretation of common law marriage in the state of Ohio. This fact pattern, in 1971, the relationship between Tony and Gail began. Title of the home is in Tony's name. Gail uses her single status in filing her tax returns, certain housing forms, and apparently she filed for bankruptcy sometime, and she did it with a single status. The record would reflect that there was cohabitation was off and on since 1971. In this case, unlike the one that we just went over in the Supreme Court, there is a baby that's born. In 1994, the relationship ends. So again, we have a relationship here over 20-some years. The question becomes, is it one that is a common law marriage that would be subject to, in divorce purposes, dividing up assets? The trial court, after hearing this evidence, concluded there was no common law marriage because there was no evidence of entering into an agreement to live as husband and wife. And again, that present intent to become married seems to be the linchpin in this case. This went to the Ohio 8th District Court, and this trial court was affirmed, and so this was not a common law marriage situation. So the couple did not have to divide their assets when things went south and divorce was sought.